Welcome back to Stranded in Pittsburgh. It's a great day to be alive, as Travis Tritt once said, but that song's a cover, so I'm not sure who actually wrote it, but I digress. I said I digress before the episode even started, which isn't like a ton of, usages of that word, but it's still odd that it's more than one. Anyway, it's Nick, it's Ethan, it's Michael Jordan IV. We're ready to rock and roll here on this Christmas special. What gives this episode a Christmas special kind of feel, you ask? I don't know. We'll find it along the way. But we appreciate you for taking the ride. Not on the Polar Express. Screw that movie. The movie sucks. Appreciate you for taking the ride with us. But Jack, you're back. We're very excited to have you. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm excited to be back. Honestly, it's been nice to have some time. What better way to spend my time than complaining about the teams that have been making me close to, if not completely, detached and dissociated from life itself.
Mm-hmm.
Why not spend the free time I have already doing what I do with most of my coworkers at work that I don't really want to have an actual conversation with?
Wow.
So I'm here. It's good to be back, though. Again, I'm very grateful to have some time, especially to spend with you two. Haven't seen in a while. And I've got some very hard-hitting analysis I need to share with the people, hence my return. My hiatus is over. But I do have to warn you, my vocabulary has expanded to the point where I know what these words sound and how to say them, but I don't know what they mean at all. But I bet no one else out there does either, so we're ready to roll.
Wow. That hooked me in. Hook, line, and sinker. Ethan, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I mean, it's the Christmas special. How much more excited can you be? So we got Jack back. Unfortunately, no Nate tonight.
No.
But yeah, we got the gang's all here. The gang's back together. Just as we started. So can't be more excited. Obviously, the product that we've seen throughout Pittsburgh sports hasn't been up to par what we want to see, but we got some great takes we want to hit at you and lots to talk about, so can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, mainly bad ones for me, but they'll sound like good ones.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you think this is going to be a very well thought out episode, I've got some bad news for you. Granted, we like to brand ourselves as that dad, just some guys talking about Pittsburgh sports. This is going to be that to a T. This is going to be entertaining, but it's going to be ugly. But one thing that's not ugly is the fact that Andrew McCutchen was signed by the Pirates. He'll be back yet again. They're going to run it back. But that wasn't all they did. They signed some more pitching in Martin Perez, and then they brought in an interesting signing, Jake Lamb, a hero of my 2017 fantasy baseball squad. They brought him in on a minor league deal. Interested to see what happens with him. But Ethan, a lot of movement going on in that Pirate lineup as Jack fights to keep his head above the lower third as if he's a drowning dog. But Ethan, what do you make out of all the moves they've made? Feeling a little better than just when they signed Rowdy Tellez last week, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even though it's not the splash that you wanted the Pirates to make, it's still, like you said, Nick, it's still the Pirates are in a much better spot than they were last week when we were talking about Rowdy Tellez and Eddie Rodriguez being out for the whole year. I mean, just looking at Martin Perez, he's 1 year removed from making the All-Star game, having I think he had a sub-3 ERA that year. Obviously, last year wasn't the year that you wanted him to have and the numbers that you wanted to see, but he was still 10-4. Like he was still a very, very good pitcher with a World Series team. So he has that experience of being on that ball club and having that experience in the postseason. So he has that veteran experience. He's 32 years old. He's a veteran guy that you want. He's a veteran guy that I've wanted on this roster. He's not Rich Hill, Rich Hill is very good, but I think he's more than a step better than Rich Hill was, especially at his age, even though we loved watching Dick Mountain go out there every 5 days and eat up innings for the Pirates. But yeah, just looking at him, I think that, I mean, obviously the Pirates haven't done a lot this offseason, but he's obviously the splash of the offseason, if you want to call it that. Obviously, I might get flack for saying splash because there hasn't really been that big splash, but yeah, he's a guy that, like I said, he's 1 year removed from an All-Star appearance and pitching under a sub-3 ERA. He's still a very serviceable pitcher. He's still going to be a guy that the Pirates are going to use in that rotation. They have a decent rotation now. I wouldn't say nice. They have a very decent rotation now, especially with the signing earlier in the month, buying up the back of their rotation. Now you got a nice number 3 guy in your rotation. You're still seeking after that one. Obviously, there was that fake Jason Mackey tweet early in the week that everyone took the hook and sinker of and started pulling back and started reeling in the bait off of that. That was fun to see. I didn't buy that for a second, but a lot of other people did. But yeah, overall, I think it's a good spot to be in. Right before the new year hits, still a lot of work to do before spring training breaks in February. I think there's still a lot of time. I think the Pirates are in a spot now where you can make that splash play. There's been a lot of rumors that the Kutch signing or re-signing it, if you will, is going to be overshadowed by something bigger that will be coming to you in the next week or so, or by the end of this week. Obviously, we're getting towards the end of the week, so I don't think it's going to happen. But I think if you make that one big play, I think you're going to get a lot of people more invested in this team than they were last year, even though they had that massive improvement. I think bringing Kutch back is a great piece. You have him as your designated hitter. He was still serviceable from last year. He still put up 12 home runs. He's 1 home run away from 300. He's still got a lot left in the tank. Obviously, he's older. He's not going to be – I know he said – I think he said it last year in his interview. He's not the 2012. He's not the 2013 McCutchen that we saw, but he's still a guy that's willing to go out there and compete every day and really put in the work to help this ball club win. And I think you're going to see that more this year. And I think if you have, guys buy in to that mentality and buy in and have those veteran pieces there that know how to win, that have been in scenarios that you've been in scenarios that you want to win. Sorry, there's a lot of commotion going on in the background.
I can hear it. Sounds like the Titanic kitchen when they started tilting up.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I get my thoughts around me, but there's a lot of guys that know how to win in this lineup. Not a lot, but just enough guys to where you can build that sort of culture around this ball club that you still have that mixture of young guys that don't have a lot of experience in the big leagues, but you have those veteran pieces on both sides, pitching and also out in the field. You have those guys that can kind of come together and really showcase and really build a nice culture around this ball club. So I'm very excited to watch the Jake Lamb signing this week. I didn't really get to look a lot into it because I think it just happened today. He's a non-roster invitee, or he's not a non-roster invitee, but he's not on the active roster, but he does have an invite to spring training. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. I think he's going to be if he does break camp with the team, I think he's a nice bench piece for this team, and I think he'll be able to get some reps with this big league ball club. So I'm excited to see how they use him moving forward, and things are starting to gain traction for this team, and I keep getting more and more excited as baseball season continues to get closer.
Absolutely. And Jack, did you have something to say? Sorry.
Oh, no, I only have 2 points to make.
Okay.
One, I think it's nice, and I think it's ironic that we've come full circle with the last time I was on the show and now where we are still talking about Rich Hill, which I enjoy and I embrace every single time. The other thing is, the biggest thing about the McCutchen re-signing to me is that you have 3 guaranteed wins against the Cardinals now, because all 3 days of Anthrocon, the Pirates will be playing the Cardinals. So you're going to have the furries out in full force and fur to watch their favorite Pirate. And if he's not going to put out, not like that, but if he's not going to show up, if he doesn't show up and really compete those days, I'll be surprised just as much as all the Foxes and Bears there are that day.
Wow.
We're
I don't know
so
how.
back. We're so back.
I don't know how I can follow that up.
It's not even like it's not predetermined. It kind of happens. It's free flowing, bad comedy people missed.
How do I try to accurately analyze this after that? I don't know how it's possible. But no, I think the Perez signing is good. There's a lot of upside there. Ethan kind of hit on all the points. He's with the world champion team. Even though the teams are only in 2 countries, they can take their World Series label and run with it. But yeah, I mean, they got a World Series champion on their team. Granted, he got moved to the bullpen for a part of last year. But I think there's a lot of upside potential with the Perez signing, whereas the Marcos Gonzalez signing, it felt like a guy who's just going to go out there and eat up innings. And if he doesn't embarrass himself, we'll call that a win. No discredit to him, but that's kind of what it seemed like from the outside. So now we're kind of getting an idea of what they're going to be going after to build this rotation essentially from scratch. And we pray to God Mitch Keller's didn't pull a classic Pirate has a really good half year that tries to warrant him into getting a really big deal. Hi, Josh Harrison. Just kidding. I love Jay. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with this rotation because there's still a lot of work that needs to be done with it. I agree with you, Ethan, on the Jake Lamb side of things and the Kutch thing. People are starting to whine and complain about it. You know, what's his role on the team? He walked a lot last year. He's a guy, his average has dipped considerably since his prime here in Pittsburgh, but he finds a way to get on base. He's loved by the city. He's going to move merch. He's going to put asses in seats, and he's going to, you know, help with that Anthrocon crowd, as Jack touched on. And I think he's done enough for the
city revenue. It's a lot of in-city revenue. Okay, that's good for the Pittsburgh local economy.
Absolutely.
Actually, also look at the socioeconomic repercussions of this signing. We're getting into a whole lot of budgets we didn't think we'd be delving into here in this sphere.
There we go.
But honestly, this is basically Pittsburgh's new. This is the New Deal.
But
as
like
far as economic strength goes.
But honestly, though, if you're a fan of the Pirates, why would you complain? Who else would you go out? Who else would you go out there and sign? Obviously, yes, he's not putting up the numbers that he used to be, but he was still a very damn good player last year. Like he wasn't egregious, and they're just throwing him out there every night to just go out there and be a PR stunt for this team after years and years of the pit of death. But he's still a serviceable guy. This team was in shambles years prior.
Can we elaborate on the pit of death?
There was this team continued to go down the hill.
I didn't know that was
he's filibustering.
Yeah, I don't know. At that point, like, honestly, in 2020 and 2021, there was nothing going right for this team. That's the pit of death. There's an endless hole. Yeah, exactly. You're spiraling down out of control. There's no end in sight. But then you put together a much better roster than you did in years prior in 2023, and you make some noise in April, and you have your ebbs and flows throughout the season, and you end up getting 14 games better than you did the year before. That's better. You have a guy in Andrew McCutchen that, well, he didn't put up the numbers that he used to. He still was a guy that was able to get you the innings and get you the at-bats that you needed as the season progressed, and didn't really, well, he was still he was able to work the counts. He was able to get on base. And he was able to have a pretty decent year and still be able to produce for a team that didn't really have a lot outside of that first month of the season. Lost a lot of guys due to injury. Lost to O'Neal Cruz, but he was still able to produce, and that's what you want. Why are people complaining? I don't know. Yes, he's old, but yes, he's still going to be able to go out there and produce. He still thinks he can play 2 or 3 years, and I say yes, he still can play 2 or 3 more years, because until I see that drastic decline that we see with a lot of older guys, I think you're going to still see a guy that's going to be able to produce in the lineup and be able to get you wins day in and day out.
And he's earned a spot on this team too. And I know what he did was 10 years ago now in terms of the MVP season and everything. But you think of how dire of a situation that team was in for so long and that he pioneered kind of the resurgence of baseball in Pittsburgh. And we've seen some of these veterans who you forget they're in the league. They go out and they hit 210. He's hitting around 250. He's still got some pop. He's still got some speed. He's got some flash still. I think he's more than earned a spot on this team as long as he wants it. Are you a little upset they're spending what $8 million on him or whatever for 1 year when they're, spending $8 on other guys? Sure, I kind of get where that frustration comes from, but this is a local hero, and I'm obviously very biased, but it's a guy who's done a lot for this team, a lot for baseball in this city. And if you have to throw him a couple extra $1 million as a thank you for what he's done for you instead of what have you done for me lately, then so be it. Also, we've heard Ethan bring up that big splash move that was going to overshadow the Andrew McCutchen signing. And I haven't broken a lot of news. As we all know, my journalistic career has kind of come to a halt aside from this and the occasional freelance gig here or there. But I have made some very fruitful connections in my time. I might get this guy in trouble for leaking what I am about to say, but ears to the ground. I'm hearing Bubba Chandler and Jared Triolo for Chris Archer is going to be the big deal that comes up for this Pirates rotation. I think it's going to be a move that could be very beneficial in the immediate future when you think of the Pirates are not going to be able to re-sign some of these guys that are coming up through the farm system once their contracts expire. So if you're in a win now mentality, which I think they are, the window has opened. I think Chris Archer for Bubba Chandler and Jared Triolo just makes a lot of sense. It makes as much sense as milk and cookies on the table for Santa, in my opinion. That whole bit was a joke, by the way. I don't want any clickbaiters to grab onto that and start running my name through the mud. We already fell for the fake Mackey tweet. Well, I didn't, but some people who aren't as intelligent as me, and I hope they somehow find this, fell for it. But yeah. But now, with Jack with Jax being back, we're so back. Take a shot every time you hear that. You will wake up on Christmas Day, conveniently 4 days away. Pens welcome back Marc-Andre Fleury, as obviously he's on the Minnesota Wild. He didn't get the start, and for a team like Minnesota, who I don't think the expectations are too high to not just give him his flowers, pun intended, I have some choice words, but I'll keep them to myself. Jack, I really wanted you and Nate to have a really good, really passionate hockey chat tonight, but unfortunately, only one of Baldwin's four horsemen were able to make it. So take it away.
I'll say this: at least we've got boots on the ground against Carolina. Nate's doing his due diligence and just carrying out his civil duty, which I did against the Coyotes, where we finally got the power play going, which I said they would, which I said they were going to start. And this is all behind the scenes for you folks at home who don't talk to me daily. These fellas do. So they've got the inside scoop on what I've been saying and the ear to the ground with what I've been doing, which I haven't only just been reading legal text. Okay. I've also been watching a lot of bad hockey. Same bad hockey that all of you have been watching. And I've come down to this. It's you had an awful stretch to the end of November when my friend turned 25. That was the last time the Penguins scored a power play goal. And then every day he spent in his 25th year of life up until that Coyotes game, they didn't score a power play goal. Imagine that, a life without a special teams goal, a life without special teams production on a team with a power play unit, first unit, with three sure first ballot Hall of Famers. But oh, wait, it's not working. You can take one of those first ballot Hall of Famers out and put another first ballot Hall of Famer on it. So why isn't that working? Well, that's something the Penguins coaching staff hasn't been able to really put together. But apparently they're just getting back to simpler hockey instead of looking for a perfect highlight reel play. And they had to do it on that night. I know I'm working backwards, but they had to do it on that night because you're playing Arizona, who has one of the hottest power plays in the league. Why? It's constant puck movement. It's constant high cycling. They go up, they go low to high, high to low across. The puck is never in one spot for too long, especially not above or below the dots for more than two passes, which how many times have you seen Carlson and Malkin just play catch with this shit? So you're watching them open up seam passes, and you're like, well, we're pretty good below the dots. Why don't we just put it below the goal line and try to work it up right along the crease? You saw it against Arizona. You saw it against Montreal. You're probably going to see it tonight. The Penguins have started to put a lot more pressure low on the power play, and that's why you've been seeing more chances. You're putting Gensel in a buffer zone, kind of in the bumper area that a lot of people like to call it that. I just think it's having a front net guy who works his way in between the faceoff dot and the crease. And I think it's a great chance for scoring, especially when you have Crosby down low, distributing that puck where he's done it for his entire career. Remember, Sid's best areas of his game are the corners and by the net. He's the best grinder in the league, and if you want to score goals, he goes to the highest percentage areas. That's why he's so good. That's why he has another goal. Where? Top of the crease tonight. On a pass from Rickard Rakell, which is nice because he said he's starting a whole new season after coming back from injury, and I hope so, because if he doesn't get it going tonight, it's going to be kind of like how he was faltering in the last season he played, which was the first however many games. So that's just been what I've been talking about recently.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Fleury not playing against the Penguins, the Wild are dealing with myriad reasons as why they've been downward spiraling since the season started. Dean Evison and their assistant were fired. And you got to really feel for a guy like Dean Evison. He's one of the nicer guys in hockey. There was a great story about how an equipment manager or one of the behind-the-scenes staff members, whenever he was working with Dean Evison, he was very conscientious about, really expressing himself, and he was coming out as gay. And Dean Evison, the day that it happened, he went up to him and he said, "Hey, you have any problems, come to me. I have your back. You're on this team. That means you're part of our family, and we're here to support you." So this is a guy who's very personal, a guy who really wants to work well with his team. Obviously, it didn't work out in Minnesota, and it's a shame, but that guy has a really good reputation, and it's just unfortunate that didn't work out for the Wild. But you look at the situation the Wild were in coming into Pittsburgh, and one of the bottom 5 teams in the league, I think, close to it. They're around the basement. Central Division is very good. You're not really going to turn the team around right now. Why not play him in probably the last game he'll be in the city? Granted, I think they're still going to do that one-day contract shit where they bring him back and he gets to retire a Penguin, which I think is pretty hackish. If you really want to do it and want to give the guy a decent send-off tour, I don't know, maybe just sign him to a 1-year deal, have him play a couple games as the backup. He's obviously done it. He won a Vezina, 2.5 years ago? I think it's entirely possible. That's the Fleury thing. To transition into just how I see the rest of this month going, more of the same. Now, you're going to see special teams struggles, but I still think it'll be more efficient than it was for the 30 days it was desert dry. I think the goaltending is going to continue to shine. Jari and Nedeljkovic have been an outstanding tandem. Penguins have a better team goaltending saves above expected per 60 than teams like the Rangers and the Bruins. You're playing a team tonight. Again, it's 1-0 as us talking right now. Raquel has a point. Crosby has a point. Original game with really bad goaltending, you should be able to finally beat the Hurricanes, because they haven't been able to do that, I think, in the last 6 games they've played them, whether it be in Raleigh or Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. The last point I want to make is a very special guy on the Penguins right now. I think he's the best young prospect they have. That's Valtteri Puustinen. Puustinen has been lighting up the AHL for the last probably year and a half. Came onto the scene. You saw, people who cover the Wilkes-Barre Penguins start talking about how, wow, it's only a matter of time before Puustinen really breaks out. The big thing was is Sam Poulin ever going to play an NHL game? And I think we finally got our answer with him not making a team out of training camp this year, and the fact that he hasn't been one of the call-ups yet. Probably not. I don't think Poulin is going to really shine at all. He'll probably just be a guy like Derek Pouliot who stays in the system but then gets moved out later for a role player. Nathan Legare, I have absolutely no idea what's up with him. But Puustinen is the best young prospect you have right now who is NHL ready and already doing a pretty decent job on the new power play. they're putting Puustinen in front of the net and having him cycle into the middle and then out to the half wall. And he's really worked well in there. The guy can shoot the puck, but he also has a very good mind on him. He's playing with Malkin, which is kind of like running blindfolded through a room full of mirrors. You have no idea what's going to happen. But I think it's good to have him put on that line. He gets to play with high-end talent. And he's one of the faster guys who's going to be able to dig pucks out and be a little more creative. Also, the last thing I want to say is Braden Yeager is going to play for Team Canada at the World Juniors. He's been lighting up the WHL. For one of my favorite team names is the Moose Jaw Warriors. But if you have a chance to tune into the World Juniors over the holiday break, make sure you watch some Canada games and look for Yeager. He's got a great shot, great hockey mind, puts himself in a lot of scoring positions. And I think it's going to be fun for Penguins fans to actually see a prospect that might not just burn out or get hurt. I'm looking directly at you, Owen Pickering.
Wow.
And that's about it.
Penguins Hockey is always brought to you by Pure Hockey. If you need NHL apparel, gear, anything else, Pure Hockey is your place. Hit that link in the bio for more. And thanks to Pure Hockey. It's always nice when Jack and Nate talk about the Penguins because Ethan and I have the Pirates and Steelers as our bread and butter, and then one of them will talk about the Penguins and just say things that are so forward-thinking that it makes me feel like I don't have bread and butter. I can't make toast over here. If you saw me giggling during that segment, because I thought of a question to ask Jack, and I was going to use a phrase in it that wouldn't really, irritate people, but it's going to make Jack just go, really? Was there no other way you could have worded that? And I'm going to go for it now. And if I start laughing at my own joke, I'm sorry, because it's really not that funny. And now that I've given it a 30-second explanation, it's going to make it even worse.
So dropped it. See, you should have just dropped it. Now you set it up.
Yeah.
You got this house of cards, you're going to drop a bowling ball.
Well, I just wanted to talk about how the Capitals are going to be moving to Virginia thanks to some rich men north of Richmond. And I was wondering what you were going to,
oh my God,
what your thoughts on that? See, it wasn't good. And I knew it wasn't good.
Here's the thing with that. I actually think it's hilarious that I thought they would really be moving to Arlington because that's where every other person who works in DC who doesn't want to live in DC lives.
Yeah, they got a great cemetery.
They're moving the Capitals to one. Yeah, I hear it's pretty decent. Old Matt Damon was there.
The Eternal Flame's sick, by the way.
Yes. Now
we can get back to what
my point about this is I think it's weird that they play in DC. There's a lot of stuff around it. It's a decent commerce area. It's where if people want to see Washington DC and also go do something that isn't just stare at statues and or documents and monuments, which I have no problem with. I enjoy this country's history.
Someone who's getting back on a Civil War kick. That sounds pretty sick.
Yeah. From what perspective?
I mean, I just bought a 800-page book on the Battle of Gettysburg. So, I mean, I fit right into the demographic of let's go stare at monuments and go, oh, wow. Did you know that? For 6 hours out of a warm summer's day. So,
yeah, but you didn't answer my question.
What was your actual question? I was too busy dodging it because we're talking about politicians.
Are you getting interested in the Civil War from what perspective?
I'm not sure how you want me to answer that.
Blue or gray?
But it's blue. Come on now. Come on.
You're going to start talking about bullshit like the Lost Cause narrative. Anyways.
No, see, I was gonna say from the north, but then I was just a little worried that wasn't the way you were going and it was going to get spun like
that's
I took
where I was going. I'm
crazy
not
radical direction.
Losers. Okay, we'll talk about the Civil War.
Is that the most out-of-pocket minute and a half of podcast history? Probably not. There were some deleted episodes.
Supports the Confederacy.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
God, no. Bunch of losers. So, what I'm saying is, moving them out of a place like DC and into, I think, maybe the third, I think one of the top 3 richest area codes in the state of Virginia is, I don't know, maybe you're pushing some people out of the fan base by doing that. Maybe you're putting them in an area where there's already a certain economic class that's going to either buy up season ticket sales. I feel like you're going to get a whole different crowd at these games, which is like, I don't know. That's just me looking at where this is getting moved to, knowing nothing about it. Other than that, this is a very wealthy area, and they're moving them out of DC, which is like, you know, people who work there are wealthy, but many of the people who live there are more or less middle of the pack. And, you know, some of them like to go to hockey games. Now it's not as close. You're going to have really more of like a 49ers situation, I guess, where you're driving outside of the city on the name of the team to go watch them. But they also get to have the nuance to this where it's kind of like the Palace in Detroit, where you just kind of turn off a highway and there it is. But I doubt it'll be like that. It'll probably be in a gated community.
Wow, that's deep. Jack mentioned the Canada games.
World Juniors.
The World Juniors, the Canada games. Thankfully, the Steelers no longer have to play the Canada games. He's gone and moved on. Is that for better or worse? We thought it was for the better, but who knows now? But now we're playing a different kind of game. Saturday night, we're going to be watching the reindeer games because Mason Rudolph is going to be at quarterback for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And while those two question every life choice they had, not only being my friend, but agreeing to talk into a microphone with me for 45 minutes every Thursday, we talked about it last week. We said there's no way Mason's going to be the guy. Why would you bring in Mason when the game... Okay, let's backtrack to what we said last week. I'll give you the full rundown for Jack, especially, who definitely didn't listen to this because it was final season.
I've been listening to the show.
I'm sure. What's Nate's last name?
Oh.
Anyway, last week
I literally ran into Nate last week.
Anyway, last week
I actually asked, I was like, how's the show going?
Oh, he does care. He does care. The holiday bonuses didn't even hit the bank account yet, and he cares. There is no holiday bonus, by the way. Jelly of the Month Club.
Paid on commission for each word during the hockey section.
Every time Jack uses a law school word, he gets 5 cents. Anyway, last week we talked about how if they weren't going to start Mason, then he definitely wasn't going to get in the game against the Colts, because what good would it do to bring him in once the game's a blowout and everyone's already more pissy than they already were? Boy, so imagine my surprise when I see the Steelers, someone on Steeler Twitter say Rudolph has a helmet on the sideline with like 2 minutes left, and they just blew a 13-0 lead and never scored again. So just what you didn't think they should do, what they definitely shouldn't have done, they did. And they let him go out there and hand it off. And his first pass was a horrendous screen pass with no blocking to Jaylen Warren. It was beautifully disastrous.
Numbers. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I have no clue how to feel. Jake Browning might throw for 600 yards against them. Ever since that first game he played against the Steelers, his first start, he's been good. And we saw the clip of him last week saying, "You shouldn't have effing cut me," to the camera. And it was one of the whitest things I've seen in my life. But
right.
You know, it's so
Kyle. I know that's not his name. I only have one thing to add, really, is I've put all my eggs in one basket, evidently, with the fact that I really am only up to speed and only have my finger on the pulse of one organization in the city. And you're right, it's Pitt Volleyball, who I'm actually, dude, Nebraska got stomped on in the national championship. So that kind of sucks that was the team that took you out. So Nebraska swept and then got swept. But you thought I was making a joke. I did watch it. I did watch Pitt Volleyball.
It was electric.
They were great. But I'm talking about the Penguins. Most of my analysis and my hard viewership and observation is on that team in that season because I believe in it. And I think that's the core tenet here. I don't believe in this Steelers team, regardless of whether it's leadership or personnel. I don't think this team has any juice whatsoever. They've looked like they've been sleepwalking the entire year. And the only way, again, we watched it, every win towards the end was basically just the defense bailing them out on the last play of the game at the goal line. I think it happened 2 weeks in a row. Tennessee was the most recent one. And then they stopped doing that because playing the defense for 70, 75, 80% of the game, they're going to get hurt. People don't have that kind of endurance. This is the NFL.
The Polar Express is chugging through the Morrison household right now. What the hell was that?
Tom Hanks is in your walls.
There's a hobo on top of Ethan's house right now.
But to wrap all that up, what I want to say is pretty crass, but I'm going to save the viewers from that. I'm just going to say, the Steelers can eat heckin' dirt because I don't believe in them, and it'd be wise for them to lose the rest of the games this season and do what people have been talking about. I know that the real hardcore, the Steelers don't tank. That's fine. You can believe that all you want, and you can watch this team be mediocre for the next 20 years. You're going to need to start having a better draft position. And again, when you have mediocrity at your most important position, you're not going to be good, no matter how many weapons you give him. Whether the names start with a P, an M, or an R, all three of these dudes stink. And I don't care that the sample size hasn't been enormous on Pickett. I don't believe in him. And I don't think I will, because I watched him Pitt. He had one good year. It was his 5th year. So are we going to wait 5 years for him to get good here? How many guys are still going to be around at that point? Are you going to be able to keep guys around like Watt, Highsmith, keep the defense together? Those guys might not be as good as they are right now. And I thought the mentality was like, you're always willing to compete. I hope they lose every game. I think starting Rudolph is a great way to do that. So maybe the Steelers have had a change of heart. George Pickens looks like he's walking through most of his drills. And you know what? I would be too. That's the thing. You didn't think I would be siding with the players with bad attitudes, but
I'd expect nothing less.
Because I'm an agent of chaos, if nothing else, and I want to watch this city burn from a football standpoint, but keep it just cold enough so the ice maintains its shape and form, because that team can actually compete when they figure out the special teams.
Ethan's foaming at the mouth over there. Ethan,
go ahead, because that's the end of my analysis.
I mean, the Polar Express is still running through my my room right here, but as I'm talking over this, yeah, I didn't think that they were going to turn to Rudolph. I said this weeks ago is if they were going to make the move, it would have had to been at least 2-3 weeks ago if you were going to do any sort of move. But they do it now, and I don't care at this point. I really don't. This team has just sucked the life out of me each and every week I've watched them. And even when I'm not watching them, they still find a way to suck the life out of me. Just the lack of effort, the lack of care throughout this team. Just the George Pickens blow-ups, the Deontay Johnson blow-ups. Just I'm tired of it. I just want this season to be over. And people are saying, oh, the Steelers, they shouldn't tank. I mean, at this point in the season, why tank? Like, it's too late in the season to really tank. Like, you have 4 games left in the season. What good is losing these last 4 games going to do? You're going to move up 3-4 spots in the draft for nothing. All for nothing. Like, you're still going to be able to get a decent pick if they were to win 1 or 2 more games this year than you were if you were to probably lose out, unless something drastic happens in the draft board or anything like that. So for them to tank, I just don't see any real gain out of that if they were to do it. It's just this team they put up a 13 spot in the first quarter against the Colts, and my prediction of them just to go out there and just stomp all over the Colts and really just bounce back after 2 abysmal weeks looked very promising. And then the same stuff happened over and over again, and the same problems kept occurring for the Steelers team, and it just sucks the life out of you. And Yeah, I watched a team that was lackadaisical, that didn't show up after that first quarter of play, was missing blocks, was not really caring to even play the game of football anymore. After that second quarter was over, there was a 1-point game. The Colts had the lead. Defense made a stand on fourth down. Things were looking pretty, can I say it, mediocre at that point of the game. And it's like, oh, the Steelers might be able to pull that one out of their behind after that second half of play. After that first half of play where, oh yeah, they might have let down in that second quarter, but they still have a chance. But no, things just continue to go south of the border after that one. And after the second quarter and into the second half, and just things really didn't look promising after that. And here we are once again. Another week goes by, and you're looking at another team with a lot of question marks on it. And those playoff hopes keep getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And I obviously don't think they can make it. I don't think anyone in this city thinks they can make the playoffs anymore.
What are they going to do if they make the playoffs?
They're just going to roll over later, and they're just going to turtle like you're in grade school trying to protect yourself from a tornado with your like little textbook over your head. That's what the Steelers are going to play like the rest of the year, scared and timid, like they have been the past 8-9 weeks of the season. As Jack falls over.
An elementary school kid experiencing a tornado is scared and timid.
Those tornado drills. Yep.
Oh, good Lord.
What a coward. Face the tornado.
This is where we're at right now. This is literally where we're at right now. This is how the Steelers are playing. It's where the Steelers are playing. It's how the Steelers are playing.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Sorry I had to go that route.
I will concede. I'll concede. You're right. You're right with there's no use in tanking. Once you think about it for more than 5 seconds, it won't change much. But I do think it'll actually finally break the spirit of some of these people holding out. Like, well, if they make the playoffs, you don't know what they're gonna do. Like, you know.
Oh, it will. It will.
We just need to truly break the spirit of positivity, which I don't think there's much left. But you still don't think there's like one or two. Like, if this defense gets going.
If Tomlin somehow squeaks out his 500 record again. I don't want that. I want Tomlin to have a losing season. Yeah, it's not worth getting that winning season. If Tomlin gets a losing season, then the wheels start to turn with everyone, and then you start to put into question, is Tomlin the guy? Is Tomlin the guy? I don't think he's the guy. But if he has that winning season, oh boy, everyone's going to be all over him saying, he's the coach that's going to lead them back to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
There we go. That's what you get. That's what you get with everyone in this city. If they get a winning season, you're gonna get that commentary from some people. A lot of people have moved on. A lot of people have said, "Oh, he isn't the coach," which I respect. But there's still that slim demographic in Pittsburgh and that slim group in Pittsburgh that says, if he gets that winning record, he's still the man that's going to lead them. But that's just not the case. It's like we've said weeks prior, he's not the guy. He's grown still. He needs to move on. Even though Kaboli said that he's 98.2%, he's going to be able to keep his job today. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
Watching just like not the purpose, but the joy of living drain from your face the longer that went on. Your eyes just kind of got more tired and tired. And that's a great allegory for what this team has done this entire year, is just beat you down and break your spirit time and time again. Because even when they were like eking out wins, you knew they really didn't have any kind of structure or consistent offensive success to put together like a division clinching season.
What's there left to say? I'll find it because I got a few points I want to hit. Listen, the Steelers starting cornerbacks, safeties, whole secondary
Oh boy,
they might as well go to Aliquippa and ask their secondary if they want to play. You guys,
why not? Didn't they just win Quad A?
I think they won whatever they're in.
They won states, yeah, Quad A states. Yep.
The Pittsburgh Maulers might have a better secondary at this point. Suspension, injury, whatever. They're lucky Jamar Chase is out. That's all I'll say. T. Higgins, please go off, King. I'm in my fantasy football semifinal as the 2 seed. We can't be throwing a dud. Kyron Williams is going to get me started tonight, I hope. But, I mean, the defense is banged up, as Jack said. And then we get to the point of, well, should Tomlin have a job if they lose out? And I know earlier it's not exactly the same. It's not even really similar at all, but it's a tad and bit similar where it's like, is it like earlier when I said, they pay Kutch a little more than they normally pay Kutch because of what he's done for the team, what he means to the city? In a way, do you do that with Tomlin if they lose out? Because what he has done and what his preparedness of his team has looked like these last few weeks is absurd. So many coaches would get fired. Not maybe before the season ends if they had a collapse like this. All right. But because Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season at the helm of the Steelers, I think it's going to be hard pressed for them to fire him after one disastrous year where a few of his defensive staples are hurt and his future franchise quarterback, with every air quote imaginable around that statement, is hurt. I don't think they'll ditch him. It's totally justified if they do. Like I said a few weeks ago, I have more than enough respect for Mike Tomlin for what he's done. But sometimes you have to admit mediocrity is just not enough, especially when it's been this prolonged. And sometimes it just makes sense to move on. Circa Andy Reid in Philadelphia. It worked out pretty well for him. And I would hope it would work out well for Tomlin wherever he goes. But sometimes you just have to admit that it's just no longer a good fit. But that being said, I don't think they're going to fire him, which is a wet dream of a friend of mine in my home group chats who keeps telling me the problems go beyond Mike Tomlin. Who's the guy whose direct job is to have his team prepared to beat 2-2-10 teams? Who's the guy whose job it is to have them prepared to be a guy called DTR? And I don't remember what the TR stands for at this point in the season for the Browns. Okay, it's Thompson Robinson. I'm not that much of an idiot, but I mean, it's Mike Tomlin's job. Whose job is it to adapt the game plan rather than with 3 quarterbacks and 2.5, 3 offensive coordinators, whatever the hell the replacements of Canada were labeled as? Whose job is it to help them change the game plan and adapt to certain players' strengths depending on the situation that you find themselves in? It's all on Mike Tomlin. And he's done nothing. This has looked like the same team trying to just insert new pieces in and do the same thing over and over again. And none of it is working out. And it is painful to watch from a consumer standpoint. And it has broken the will of this team. This city this week just found out U.S. Steel was sold to Japan. All right. The people of Pittsburgh are suffering. They should be able to turn to this Steelers team and find some sort of thing to root for in their lives. And it's just not going to happen. Bill Cowher was on Pat McAfee today. And I preface this by once again saying I respect Tomlin and what he's done. But his biggest gripe, even before this, was that he wants to be everyone's friend. There's really no hard nose. I'm holding you super accountable. And when he did, it was like the screen painting. Whenever he would say something somewhat punchy at a player publicly. Bill Cowher went in there and basically crapped all over George Pickens for not blocking for Jaylen Warren, which was totally deserved. And these two are now fighting in public with Warren saying, I would have blocked for him. It's a disaster. But the thing that really impressed me with what Cowher had to say, I'll call him Coach Cowher because he's earned that. Coach Cowher.
He's in the Hall of Fame. I think
he is in the Hall of Fame. When I had COVID a couple of years ago, I cried watching the video with the large man coming out and saying, Coach, thanks for all you've done for the game. All you're going to do for the game. I had COVID. I thought I was going to die. And I watched that video and I was crying my eyes out. It was a very emotional time. Anyway, the thing he said that impressed me the most was essentially him saying, I never let the team get complacent. I always on Friday night would write a pregame speech or something I was going to say to the team. And no matter what I had to do, I found a way to motivate them and to find a reason for him to get pissed off, to get fired up, is kind of the paraphrasing way of saying that. And all I could think about is the same points I've been hitting for 3-4 weeks now, which is, how did Mike Tomlin not say, we have a cakewalk schedule right now? I don't care who's under center for us. I know this team's damn good enough to get us through this, to get to these playoffs. Screw all the noise. Let's go out there and make a statement this week. And they came out of the gate to every single one of those games, barring the very first drive of the Arizona game, and just absolutely crapped the bed. It looked like the freaking seagulls or pigeons, whatever the hell birds, are all over the Acrisure turf all the time. They were crapping all over the field, and it was an insult. And I just wish that at some point, as Tomlin went from that young coach into the more middle-aged older coach, that he started to adopt more of a no-nonsense, I don't need to be their friend, I carry enough respect in my name alone where I don't need to be everybody's buddy, and I can get a little more hard-nosed. And I wish at some point he would have adopted that mindset, because to hear a 15-year removed from being an NFL head coach, Bill Cowher, make me want to punch a wall. He got me so fired up on the Pat McAfee show at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon. Imagine how he can motivate an NFL team who's actually going to go out there and play the game. It made me miss that kind of leadership in this team. And I wish we saw Tomlin take those steps as a head coach. And it's a frustrating thing to see, because I think if he did take that maturity and did take that step and hold these guys more accountable, that this could have been avoided. Because again, I think he's done enough now. I know he's done enough now where he just carries that respect and you respect him, and where he can put his head down and be a bit more of a jackass and a more hard-nosed guy to his team. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I'm just sad. So somebody else talk.
Well, I was going to say, you said he always found a way to get guys pissed off. And, fun fact, he actually paid that guy to shoot Joey Porter in Denver. So, I mean.
I don't know if we can say that.
I don't know if we can either. I was debating holding on to that one. He didn't. I just want to say, for legal purposes, he did. But Steelers won that game, and Joey Porter lived enough to where his son plays for the Steelers. So I feel like everyone's happy. But the other thing I want to say is, if you're looking to pay attention to a local football team who really needs your support this week, Jack O'Brien's Raiders need a big push. We've been above the power rankings for 5 consecutive weeks. We were 10-5. We got a first-round bye, and we're in this what should be the semifinals. So, we're going to leave it to an open forum, because I've got 3 tight ends, and I don't know which one to play. I'm already using a flex option for David Njoku. That's not a question, the way that how Flacco's been giving him the ball. George Kittle or Evan Ingram. CJ Beathard may be playing for the Jags, but the Niners are playing the Ravens, and the Jags are playing the Bucs.
You got to put Kittle in there too.
I still think you put the kitty in.
But yeah, what if Lawrence plays?
I still think you put Kittle in. He's
you still put Kittle
Christmas
in.
night.
The Ravens' defense is miles better than the Bucs.
But still, it's George Kittle. As good as Ingram has been this year, and Ingram is part of my lineup, and I have Travis Kelce as well. As good as Ingram has been,
who's that?
Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram.
No, that other guy.
Oh,
is that the one that's dating Kesha or whatever?
Travis Kelce?
Yeah, he's like dating Martina McBride or something.
Oh my god!
Nick, out of here! No, I'm saying it. No, get the hell out.
No, but like,
come on.
Yeah, you got it in that spot between Ingram and Kittle.
Isn't he dating Shania Twain? Shut up. He's dating.
No, but yeah, but between those two, you got to start Kittle. He's the much better option.
I'm already projected to win by a bunch because my team's sick. But I was just curious, just to toss it out there. Let the birds pick at it, as they say. Looking at my notes here, we've got a birthday today. It's a happy birthday to no one in particular. I made that up. I have nothing else to say. I didn't make notes either.
It's time for last call. Jack, this is just a final thought on what might be the worst episode post-pandemic this show has ever had.
This one was rough, man.
Ethan, start us off, because I have to go edit things out of this show.
Well, I'm going to the game on I'm going to the game on Saturday, and as much as I hate to see Mason Rudolph starting, I'll get to be able to grace my Mason Rudolph jersey that I bought back in 2019 when Big Ben was hurt for the whole year. And we got to see Mason Rudolph be under center until he got clocked in the head against the Ravens and then clocked in the head against the Browns. So I'm
more
so
directly
grateful.
Against the Browns.
Yeah. So I'm more than happy to be able to grace that Mason Rudolph jersey yet one more time. I think I got to grace it one time back in 2021 when they tied against the Lions.
Yeah. We were there.
We were there, Jack.
That's what I was going to say.
Yep, exactly. We were there. And I was able to grace that one. And everyone was making comments left and right about my jersey. I can't wait to have that same experience Saturday evening when we see about 30,000 people in Accushore cheer on the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Bengals on Saturday, which once again could be yet another funeral game down there in the city of Pittsburgh on the North Shore.
Funeral game. Damn, I was going to talk about the Rudolph Blau Bowl that there was no definitive winner of. Except actually, you know what? I'll say I was a definitive winner of that. I had a great interaction with a lady from Detroit. She was the greatest. Just incredible. I've told the story before, but I tripped and I fell down. And when you fall down the seats, like, you're in God's hands. There's nothing stopping you, and you could hurt someone. So I fall. And I'm just like propped right back up. And I was like, oh my God, whoever, they knew, like, they caught me, they pushed me back. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she was like, that's all right. We have more important things to worry about right now. And just went right back to watching the game. Two of probably the worst teams to play football that week. Completely invested. And all I'm thinking about is the Lions are 10-4. I can't imagine how happy she is right now. So I just keep my team by proxy is the Lions right now because of that woman who caught me from falling down and potentially off of the top bowl at Acrisure. That's my final thought. That's my last call. We'll call her Denise.
Oh man. Shout out to the RMU Colonials. Buzzer beat, well, not a buzzer beater. I guess there were 2 seconds left, but a huge 3 to beat the St. Francis Red Flash down there in Loretto yesterday.
Yeah. We hate St.
Go Colonials. Saturday, I watched the Steelers jump out to a 13-0 lead while hosting a Christmas party at my parents' house. I was calling Christmas bingo, and I was having a grand old time when I looked up at the TV and saw it was 13-0. But yeah, then the game slowly faded away into the abyss, and I said, well, I'm going to go out tonight, go to Buffalo Wild Wings and watch Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. Patty the Baddy's fighting Tony Ferguson, and he's been training with world-renowned trainer David Goggins. I'm going to watch Wonderboy Thompson fight. It's going to be a great night. I then proceeded to watch one of the worst UFC pay-per-views I've ever seen in my entire life while I was already on a downer from the Steelers game. And I hope none of you have to go through anything like that over the next few days. I hope you all have a safe and a happy, healthy holiday. And I hope the wet bandits don't show up to your house and leave the sink running, because that's not very cool. A lot of utility bills are getting very expensive, eye-openingly expensive, and that would not be a fun experience for anyone. I'm done. It's over. I'm so done. I'm checked out. We'll talk next week. Jack, go ahead.
Have a happy and safe holiday. Hopefully Eastern European organized criminals don't take over your office Christmas party. Thankfully, maybe you have a man visiting his ex-wife who happens to be an ex-narcotics agent.